Hello, everyone. My name is Ashna, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of HubTask, a quant research platform for investment crowdfunding. Today, we're back with another interview on Beyond the Forum C, where we talk with founders of companies raising live crowdfunding rounds. We're talking with Brent Zimmerman, the CEO and co-founder of Saucy Brew Works. To start, can you share a quick introduction about yourself and Saucy Brew Works?
Hi, Ashna. Yeah, thanks for having me. As you stated, Brent Zimmerman, CEO, co-founder of Saucy Brew Works. I actually started my career on the buy side of the mutual fund business. I worked at Mass Financial in Boston, and catapulted that role to a role at Credit Suisse on Wall Street in New York. I grew up in the Midwest, and so there was an opportunity that came for myself and a business partner at Credit Suisse to move back to the Midwest and run the Victory Capital Asset Management company, which was owned by KeyBank at the time. We had a couple clients seed us internally and launched a long-short credit hedge fund. Eventually spun that out after Dodd-Frank. So, a lot of people were harmed by Dodd-Frank, and banks being one of them because they couldn't take the capital risk anymore. But we were beneficiaries. We had the option to either stay and run the long-only mutual fund business or spin out if we had, folks that would stake us, and we did. So we grew that business we launched 118 million in assets, grew to about $1 billion at one point. Along the way, I was asked to be a seed investor of another brewery, and myself and my co-founder, Eric Anderson. At the time, he was just a friend of mine, but he's a master brewer. He's a scientist by nature. I had him help me kind of vet the operation. And then we came away and said we didn't really want to do that venture, but we wanted to do it on our own. So it's kind of the 2015 timeframe. We launched the idea and we opened to the public in 2017. I'll stop there. There's a bunch more, but that's a good synopsis.
Yeah, you kind of already touched base on this, but could you give a little bit more about your team's background and how that aligns specifically with the company's vision?
Yeah, I have a finance degree, I have an MBA, but just like any real life experience is quite a bit more valuable. I've been involved in the capital markets for basically my entire career, and in one form or another. At MFS, I was an analyst. At Credit Suisse, I was a high yield analyst slash kind of a co-PM type role. That launched into a trading, and this is all mostly corporate debt. So the bond markets dwarfs the equity markets, for those that don't know, and they kind of run the world. But so at Victory Capital, I was a trader then slash portfolio manager. I've been a part of partnerships building, 250 plus million in commercial real estate. So always, finding funding and stuff like that for those. A little bit different than Wall Street, but still a similar process. Funding Saucy Brew Works, an operating business. I have a couple other operating businesses that I've funded along the way. And so, just the nuance of legal, accounting, finance, the capital raising, all that kind of stuff has just always been a little bit of a part of my life. So it's a good background. I don't brew beer for a living. Eric Anderson is our wizard. I taste a lot of his beer, but I don't know how to brew it. I'm strictly on the business side and the growth side.
Great. So my next question is, how do you plan to maintain a competitive edge in the dynamic and evolving market like craft brewing, and what strategies do you employ to adapt to the changing consumer preference?
Yeah, I think culture community is really important. I think, recognizing the different segments of the marketplace and their different wants and needs are important. And fortunately or unfortunately, consumers change their mind quite frequently. So it's building the fundamental core business, but around that, having other verticals they're meeting demands of, the current consumer. Different generations enjoy different things. And so it's constantly balancing between, our core business, being craft beer and coffee, and what tangential type products are we adding to that mix to, again, bring it back to I'll call it the mothership, and just create that kind of culture environment and stuff that people want to be associated with. Importantly, we distribute beer AK to grocery and bars, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. But we also have 6 pubs. And so we call it a hub and spoke model. We sell beer to ourselves, but also to, other purveyors, around the state.
Great, thanks for answering that. Could you highlight some key achievements or growth metrics that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, there's a ton of them as you look back. When we started this venture in 15, there were 2 of us. Only one of us on payroll in 17. Quickly after opening, we realized we were drowning, and we hired our chief operating officer, Matt Schubeck, who worked with me at my former business. And so I use that as a backdrop to, we started with really 1 employee in 17, and we're, in excess of 150 now. We had the 1 pub. We now have 6. We own 2 breweries, Saucy Brew Works and Cartridge Brewing. We've grown, revenue from 0 to, pro forma 24, approaching 20+ million. I could give you geeky beer statistics, but it's probably not the best for this environment. But those are some key things. If that helps.
No, those are great. It's always a good problem when you're facing like growth challenges and need to hire more people and expand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough for small business. It's tough for private small business, and that's why crowdfunding is so attractive. I mean, the venture capital world. Yeah, I mean, a little bit it exists in CBD and consumer beverages and things like that, but it's a little different than tech startups. So it's a great avenue. Traditional banks aren't lending to startups in most spaces, period. So it's just a great tool that we've really appreciated the crowd, our universe of people that support us.
That's true. I think consumer products do really well with the crowdfunding, and you already have that customer base, and why not just make those customers into investors who already love your product and want to support you further.
Yeah, that's right. We have quarterly conference calls with all of our investors, and I always tell them, just tell everybody you own the place. You don't have to talk about percentages, or just tell me you own the place. Just be an ambassador, grassroots. Talk about it, help us grow. It means a lot. It helps a lot. So you're exactly right. Not only do they have a financial stake in the company, they benefit from perks in the company, but we also benefit from just the ethosphere of helping each other and growing the platform.
Agreed. So my next question is, how do you balance short-term profitability with long-term sustainability?
Yeah, and I think every startup on earth, especially right now, is thinking about this, right? When we launched the company, we've always had the basis that we were going to be a distribution production brewery as well as pubs. So, building those pubs out that people can come and enjoy our brand, as well as out in the marketplace. So what that requires is a lot of capital, because it's a lot of equipment. Also, you're building out a lot of places, right? Whether you own them or are leasing them, there's a lot of dollars you're putting into. So it requires a lot of capital. And then it requires a lot of human capital, because you're really running 2 separate businesses, if not 3, if you talk about e-commerce, right? So there's got to be a commitment to raising capital for a while to get to the kind of the break-even point, which is where we're headed in 2024. If there are curveballs that come at you all the time, and you have to reassess, where your capital structure sits, where your expense ratios and things like that sit. We ourselves recently went through that exercise to reduce expenses. Never fun, never easy, especially if people are involved. But every once in a while you have to right size the business if economic conditions are changing, which they're difficult out there right now.
Where do you see Saucy Brew Works going in the next 5 years?
We will. So right now, I would say that we're probably, from a distribution perspective of grocery, maybe in the 50% range. That business, we'd like to hit 80+%. Very few get above that. We'd be happy with that. I think you'll see us in multiple states. And I think you'll see us have, if you're talking about 3 years, 3 to 5 years, it'll be 3 to 5 more pubs. We are heavy believers, especially now where the market's more saturated than it was 20 years ago, that you have to be local. to get brand awareness and people to actually want to support you. So to go into a random state and not have a pub close by is sometimes a rough conversation with distributors, grocers, and those types of things versus when people can come and see and feel and touch the brand. So we're very much aligned with trying to do that in specific areas around the country.
Great. So my last two questions are more crowdfunding focused, and you've already touched on them. But how do you believe that crowdfunding will benefit both your company and the investors who support you?
It'll greatly benefit us because it's the true route in which we can go to grow right now, in an affordable way. It also will help us to pay down, more expensive debt because we're a small private company, which enhances cash flow, which enables us to reinvest in our business. And from an investor perspective, I think, doing those things creates equity value. You're creating by helping, continue to expand revenue, reduce debt where it needs to be, and those type of things, and expand distribution. You're directly enhancing and creating equity value. There's also a bunch of cool perks you get for doing it on top of that, which is one of the fun parts about crowdfunding. So, I think lastly, but not least, you're part of a community. We have investors that call into our earnings, quarterly call. I won't call it earnings call, quarterly calls, like clockwork, never miss. And they always have some tidbits for us and stories and everything else. And, I think we lost as a race a little bit of human touch during COVID. And I think people really, really, at the end of the day, like to be around humans. And so just having that sense of community really, I think, is kind of the third tier and maybe the most important part of crowdfunding that helps it really work.
Great. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for joining us today and sharing more about Saucy Brew Works.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.